fornicators, idolaters, adulterers, effeminate, homosexuals, thieves, covetous, drunkards, revilers, swindlers, etc. Nothing much has changed. So, this church, Grace Community Church, like the church at Corinth, is populated by people who fit into these former categories. But you have been washed. You have been sanctified, separated from those kinds of behaviors, and you have been justified before God, because God has set His loving forgiveness and grace upon you because of faith in Christ. I have baptized, and others have baptized in the waters of baptism right here, people who have been delivered from all these sins, including homosexuality. By God's grace and through His saving love, homosexual sinners are redeemable, and some of you sitting out there are living testimony to that fact. I remember sitting in the office one day and receiving a phone call from a man who said, "My name is David Chastain." He said in a faint voice, "I am in a hospital. I need you to come and see me." I went to a nearby hospital. I walked in the room. I knew immediately he was dying of AIDS because I know the look. I've seen it enough. He was surrounded by friends, all of whom were obviously homosexual. He was being attended to by an obviously homosexual nurse or attendant. And I came up to his bed, and he grasped my hand as tightly as he could in his weakened condition and said, "I have lived a homosexual life for over 20 years. I was raised in a Christian family, in a Christian home, in a Christian church. I know the gospel. I have rejected it and hated it all my life. Now I'm going to die from AIDS, and I do not want to go to hell. Can you help me?" And I said, "Of course I can." And I began to give him the gospel, and the room was empty in 10 seconds. I'm telling you, 10 seconds, if that. And he opened his heart to Christ. I prayed a long prayer, and I asked God to be gracious to him and to save him while he clutched my hand, after which I said, "If you desire to pray, this is your opportunity to ask for forgiveness." And he did, and he prayed one of the most heart-wrenching prayers I've ever heard in my life, pleading with God to forgive him for the wretched life that he had lived, in defiance of what he had been raised to know is true. And after this long and passionate prayer, he stared at the wall. And I said to him, "What are you looking at?" He said, "I'm looking at the clock over there, because I want to remember the time of my new life." And he was overwhelmed with a sense of joy. He said, "I have a lot to make up for in a very little time." I took some books down to him, which he read as rapidly as he could. He gave testimony of his faith in Christ, and I think, if I remember right, it was about 5 days, and he was gone.